This is Cruise Radio.
I cruise a lot and I always sail with travel insurance. You should too. Get a free quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Here we go. Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. This is Cruise Radio.
So Amy just returned from a 7-night Alaska cruise. It went from Vancouver northbound to Seward, Alaska on Norwegian Cruise Line's Norwegian Jewel. And she joins us on the line to talk about it. How you doing, Amy?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks, Doug.
Yeah, thanks for coming on and offering to talk about Norwegian Jewel. I don't think we've talked about this ship in years, so I'm excited to get your take on this one. Before we get to the ship, though, itself, we'll take a step back. You're in the Nashville area. Give me some pre-cruise thoughts. What made you want to hop on Norwegian Jewel and do this 7-night northbound out of Vancouver?
Yeah. So growing up, I went to Alaska twice with my parents. We just did a land tour, flew into Anchorage, got an RV and toured around the interior. So I've never seen the coast, and my kids, I have 2 teenage kids. They were in summer camp for a month, and I just wanted to do something with just my husband and I, and just kind of playing around. We love to cruise. So just looking at the cruises, and I found this one and it was a great price. So we decided to go for it.
Is it a long travel day getting from Nashville to Vancouver?
It was. It was. And I also did the free at sea perk where they included the flights. And I was very nervous about that because I've heard so many negative things online about the flights, but they were quite nice. It was on United. We left at 6 a.m. and got there at 2 p.m. Vancouver local time, which was 4 Central time. It worked out great. It was really no big problem at all.
Yeah, that's a good time to land too, because you can pretty much check into your hotel at that point without having to, wait in the lobby until 3 or 4 o'clock rolling around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, by the time I got an Uber from the airport, that's what we did.
Awesome. So you did just one night pre-cruise, or did you do more than that?
We did one night pre-cruise in Vancouver and then stayed in Alaska a few days after.
So did you get to explore, once you landed, were you and refreshed and checking into your room? Did you get to explore Vancouver for a little while before you boarded the next day?
Yeah, we did. We stayed in a hotel, and also just going through all the forums and where to stay. Everyone suggests the hotels right there by Canada Place. They're very expensive, and we found a hotel. It was only 10 minutes away by Uber. It was right on the border of Stanley Park and English Bay, just kind of a little bit southwest from Canada Place. It was a lovely hotel. It was built in the early 1900s, called the Sylvia Place, and it was really great. So we checked in there, and then we just spent the evening on English Bay, just going to bars and restaurants for the evening, saw a lovely sunset. It was great. The next morning we woke up and rented some bikes and just went around the seawall there in Stanley Park and had a great time. Kind of made a little earlier, 12:30, I think was in our check-in time, thinking maybe that would be a little bit better time. Let the crowds get in the boat before we did. And it did. It worked out really good. So we had a fun day in Vancouver.
A lot of people, I'm the same way. I was looking at all the forums on where to stay on my last trip, and I priced I think it was called the Pan Pacific, that hotel right there at Canada Place, and they wanted $799 for a basic room for one night, and it was a little too rich for me. So like you, I kind of went a little out to get.
Yeah.
Couldn't.
Yeah, I've heard some people stay out by the airport as well, but we kind of wanted to be a little bit closer to Stanley Park, yet not pay like $800 a night. So this worked out great. Yeah. It was maybe about 300 Canadian, something like that. So it was pretty reasonable.
Oh yeah, not bad at all. You go to board the ship in Canada Place, and walk us through this, because you have to actually clear customs before you get on the ship in Vancouver, correct?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And what is that process like? Is it like your typical embarkation? You're just kind of doing the customs in reverse, or?
Yeah, that part, I was trying to think about the exact part of that. So we get there, and again, it's kind of crazy because there was 2 ships there. There was our ship and a Disney ship, and they're both using the same port. So it was a little bit confusing, but they did have lots of people standing around, either in Norwegian or Disney uniforms, directing you in the right direction. And I know we got there about 12 or so, and I was trying to think how long it took. By 1 o'clock, we were sitting and eating lunch in on the ship. So it was pretty easy. Yeah. Just kind of went through. It was really all facial recognition. Just showed your passport, went right through. It wasn't much of a hiccup. We never stopped walking, through the whole time. weren't standing in line for very long at all or anything like that. So
once you clear that customs area, if you're not careful, you could walk to the wrong ship. I did that. I walked over to Celebrity Edge when I did it. Instead of going over to the Holland America ship, they actually had to turn me back around and point me in the total opposite direction because I was just following the crowds.
Yeah, it is very confusing. But I just kept saying Norwegian to anyone that I saw, and they kept pointing me in the right direction.
Yeah.
So
you make your way on board Norwegian Jewel. Like, what were your first impressions as you stepped on the ship?
it was pretty. It was a pretty ship. You walk right there into the atrium. It's just a 2-floor, type thing. It not really much to see, just the Starbucks bars right there. Long story short, we just kind of made our way to our muster station and then went to the sit-down dining. We always try to do that rather than hit the buffet on the first day. Norwegian always has one of their dining rooms open, in main dining rooms for lunch, and it just makes it so much more relaxing. First meal, anyway.
Yeah. Do y'all normally cruise other lines, or are you strictly Norwegian?
Well, we've only this is our 6th cruise. So we did 3 Norwegian ships. We took one as a family on MSC Meraviglia, and I did a girls' trip on MSC Seaside. The first 2 ships were the Spirit and the Dawn in Norwegian, and we loved them. The kids were little. We were all in one little inside room, and it worked out fine. The kids got older, went on the Getaway, which the kids, of course, loved, with all the water slides, rock climbing, and all this stuff. But really, I just felt like with those big ships, you're just kind of standing in line everywhere. There's just so many crowds. I just prefer the smaller ships, and especially with my husband and I, we didn't need all the bells and whistles, and it was much less expensive than the Bliss and the Encore that are sailing up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm the same way that you are. I love Norwegian Star. It's like one of my favorites of theirs. A nice little small, medium-sized ship there. What kind of stateroom did you book on this 7-night cruise, and what did y'all think about it throughout the week?
Yeah, so we went cheap, and we went into an inside, and I mean, it was small. It's pretty small, but like I said, we used to do it with 4 of us. So just with the 2 of us, we thought we could handle it, but it's pretty small. I think I just looked it up, 138 square feet. So you literally walk in the door, you have the bed, a little tiny hallway, and your closet and bathroom. The one thing that I did do, they have most of the time when you go into a room, you open the door and you come to the bathroom closet, then keep walking and it's the bed. It's kind of set, kind of port to starboard. Does that make sense? And this one, the bed was facing forward. The door was in the middle of the room. So when you open the door, you have the bed to your right and the bathroom and closet to the left. Kind of felt like maybe you weren't quite in a tunnel as much as the other rooms, I suppose. But it was small. The bathroom is nice, of course. The Norwegian has glass doors, which that shower was bigger than each one of the MSC ships I was on. It was a pretty big shower, but the toilet really had to sit almost sideways or your knees would hit the wall. So the one downfall. But yeah, it was fine. All we're really in there to do is, sleep and get ready, take a shower. So it was fine for us. The bed was comfortable and the temperature was very comfortable as well. It cooled off nicely. So that's all I could ask for. Yeah.
Did you have any noise issues, either left, right, or top or bottom during your sailing?
No, not really. The one side had a cabin. The other side, I think, was just crew area, maybe where they store their supplies and things. But no, we didn't. It was quiet the whole week. We didn't hear anything.
I booked the ship at Norwegian Star a few years back, and it got it for like super cheap. It was a 7-night med for $239 a person for an inside. I'm like, I'm going to go. I had the miles to do it. Well, I know why it was so cheap. It was right under the nightclub in the back of the ship. So until like 3 a.m. every morning, it was like, do. I was like, okay. Yeah. That's why it was so cheap. But
now you know.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about the food on Norwegian Jewel. You mentioned that you don't go straight to the buffet on embarkation day, but when you did go to the buffet, how was the food up there at the Garden Cafe, and what did you think of it throughout the week?
It was okay. It's I like that their buffet is little separate stations. They'd have a hot food station, a salad station, and things like that. So it's not just one big, huge line that everyone's standing in, which can be kind of tiresome. And so the breakfast was good. We didn't eat there. What we would do is kind of look at the main menu, and then if it wasn't anything we liked, we'd hit the buffet type of thing. But breakfast is pretty standard. It was pretty much the same every day, but it's anything you need. You've got your sweets, your pancakes, French toast, then your savories, bacon, sausage, eggs. They can make omelets. And what's really nice about that ship, and I guess all the ships in this class, is they have an outside portion to their buffet. It's called the Great Outdoors. Most of it is covered, but some of it's not. And they have a separate little buffet line there and a bar back there. So we found that we would go back there and sometimes we'd have the whole place to ourselves. It was the craziest thing. It's like we had our own bar and boat to ourselves. It was lovely. But also we tried to not, I just don't like to sit in a crowded buffet. Anyway, lots of people coughing. If we tried to go outside, we could as much as we could, but we did. So it was good in the main dining room. We had one night at Cagney's. Mm-hmm. That was our first night. And it was a good steak meal. Main dining room mostly after that. One night we just didn't. Oh, another thing, let me just pop this in here, that we love the freestyle dining whenever you want to go, because I hate having to know I have to be somewhere at 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock every day. You know, you might want to, you're enjoying the music or wherever you're sitting having a cocktail or something. I hate rushing to get dressed and for dinner. So we just felt, whenever we got hungry, went to the main dining room. If it was closed, went to Ocean, just had some good pub food, and we had a good time.
With Norwegian Jewel, they have 2 different dining rooms on there, and they don't really have a set dining time. So they have main dining rooms, but it's kind of like freestyle, as you mentioned. How do you know which one you're going to go to? That's
another good thing. One opens at 5 to 9. The other one's 5:30 to 9:30. So depending on the time we wanted to eat, if it was later, the smaller of the 2 was later for some reason, but it was more small, more intimate, not as crowded. The other one is back in the back of the ship on, and it's the whole aft of the ship on the 7th. I think it's almost 2 stories. You go on the 7th floor, but then you have to go down a few steps to get in, and then, then more steps into the room. So I guess it is a 2-story room. It's beautiful, but it's bigger, a little bit more crowded. We just I don't really have any set reason. We would just pick one or the other, but they have the same exact menu, so you can't go wrong there.
What is the theming on Norwegian Jewel? I'm trying to think, is the atrium, I've been on so many of them, is that the purple atrium? Well,
it used to be. What I can tell is it went through dry dock, I think in 2018. Okay. Yeah, it looked really red, green, purple, had those bold colors in most of the venues. And they've kind of changed that all now to like a lighter color, blues and grays and khakis. And it's more generic, but It is more modern and up to date. It's nice. There's really no theme actually that I could really tell. Okay. Because it used to be called SARS Palace, and now they're just calling it the Palace. So I guess they're trying to get away from. I don't know. But they still had some of the decorations I could tell, like the ornate eggs. Yeah. And, some statues in the main back aft dining room. But
with that ship, the Starbucks right there in the atrium, did you opt for one of the drink package as well for one of your free at sea?
Yeah, we just did the regular free at sea. It included beverages up to $15, no water, no Starbucks. With that package, you could upgrade to the premium plus, but I think they wanted almost like $350 per person for the week. And it just wasn't, we're not big coffee drinkers. It wasn't really worth it. I mean, even though there was a line at that Starbucks almost 24 hours a day as it was open. I know people are crazy about Starbucks, but we really didn't find that was, a deal for us. But another thing too, just to say something about the drink package. So if there is a drink over $15, for example, chocolate martinis and espresso martinis that I found really enjoying in the cruise, they were $18. And all they do is just charge you the difference. It's $3, plus the gratuity. So that's really not a bad deal. If you want something more than that's $15 on the menu.
How was the entertainment on the 7-night cruise as far as any theater shows or maybe comedians or music around the ship?
We're not, again, big show people. They have, it said like a Broadway cabaret, Rock You Tonight production show where they'll just, probably play rock songs over the decades. That's not really our thing. They showed a movie one night, Dune. They had some aerialists. But they did have like a Cirque du Soleil type show, and we did check that out one night. It was pretty good. And they had a comedian on there 2 nights, and we went to the adult version and saw that for about part of way of the show. And it was pretty funny. He was pretty good. That's about all we did. Oh, and I have to tell you a little funny thing about the entertainment. So on the Norwegian ships, they do the Not So Newlywed Show. And we registered to be in it, and they picked us. Okay. And my husband and I were on the show. And we've been married 21 years. We were against a couple that was married 4 years and another couple that were married 52 years. So they kind of, I think that's how they picked who they wanted to be on the show. So we ended up winning. They videotaped it. And he said, by the way, we're videotaping this. It's going to be showing on your TV room in your cabin. And that was like on the second night. It was playing on the cabin TV the whole entire rest of the cruise. It was so embarrassing. People constantly were like, were you guys on the Newlywed Show? I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was a good experience. My husband about killed me signing us up, but it was fun.
I've always wondered because that's one of the biggest shows on ships, whether it's called the Love and Marriage Show or Not So Newlywed Show. Are all those answers, like, were you prompted to put answers down, or were they like legit, you just write it down and you go from there?
Yeah. At first they, all three women, they had us go out of the room and they just went and asked them, handed them a microphone and asked them a question. He had to come up with it right there on the spot. And then then we would come in and they'd ask us the same questions. We weren't allowed to talk to them, and we answered it. And if we got it right, it is funny because I did when I signed us up, I said, okay, if they ask this, answer this. And there was actually one question that we did that I prepped them ahead of time. And that was one of the questions we got right.
Okay.
But anyway, it was funny. It was fun. They didn't really ask anything too crazy, nothing too embarrassing. And I know some of those can get pretty crazy, but ours was pretty tame, pretty PG, I would think. So
I always love when you have the couples who've been married for like 60 years and it gets a little raunchy. It's always funny watching everyone in the room get uncomfortable, I guess, right? It's just,
yeah. I don't think we had caused any of that.
Yeah, exactly. How were the sea days as far as crowds and congestion? You mentioned that you like these smaller ships because they're not crowded. So I'm wondering how it stacked up for you.
Yeah. Like I said, so we'd be walking through the halls, we'd be walking up and down the staircases and in some venues, and there was just nobody around. I just couldn't get over. I thought, where is everybody? Are we missing something? But I don't know. I don't know if there were certain things. We didn't really touch the pool deck. I mean, there was plenty of kids on board in the pool, but so I don't know if most people were there during the day or, the sea days, but we just kind of moseyed from little activity to activity. And if we wanted to be there, if not, if there was too crowded, or where we just hit another bar, they have the Bar City, which I've heard on this show too. I guess it's the 3 bars all together down there between the casino and the dining room. And that had some live music. Oh, I guess I'm going back to the entertainment. I'm sorry. Live music there. And that area was always very crowded. And then they have the Spinnaker Lounge upstairs, where up on 13 Forward. And that's where they ended up. That's where they had all the evening entertainment, the party, the 80s parties, the 70s parties, and then the game shows. And that was just such a large space and so much seating. It very rarely ever felt crowded. Or if it was crowded, we would just go to the great outdoors and we'd have that whole back deck to ourselves.
Did y'all spend any time in the casino?
My husband doesn't, but I did. It's nice. It was really, really hot. There was one evening I went and stayed really late, and I like to play craps and roulette, and then I end up losing it on the slots. But anyway, one afternoon, I just thought it was a sea day. It was one of the last 2 days. I thought, well, I'll just go he wanted to take a nap. I'll spend a couple hours in the casino. And I was sweating. I don't know why it was so hot in there, but I had to leave. It was just absolutely miserable. They would have gotten more of my money, I suppose, if it wasn't so hot. But we saw lots of ashtrays around. I saw occasional people smoking, but it didn't seem very smoky at all. So that was nice.
Let's talk about the ports of call on this 7-night cruise. So what we'll do here, on the front end, did you do Glacier Bay or one of the bay, the glaciers, or was that like towards the middle or end?
That was actually towards the end. The first stop was Ketchikan. And so we had one sea day. Left Vancouver, had one sea day. And that first sea day, the water was pretty rough. I don't know what the swells were, maybe like 5 or 8 feet or something like that. There was definitely some movement. It doesn't bother us, but there were some people we saw that were not having a good time, getting a little sick there. But then our first stop was in Ketchikan. And just another thing about Norwegian, love them, but their whole docking situation in Alaska just leaves a little bit to be desired. So Ketchikan especially, you're 7 miles away from downtown. You have to take about a 20-minute shuttle, but that includes, another 20-minute wait at least in line there and back. So that kind of stinks. But we got the little transportation and they have a rainforest wildlife sanctuary in Totem Park, it's called. It's a private company. It bumps right up to the rainforest there. So they came and they picked us up. We went there. Had a lovely little walk through the woods and through the rainforest, I should say. And then they have this elevated decking And I think that's called Herring Cove. There's like a boardwalk. And you could see there's also a salmon hatchery there. And across the little river, you could see where tour buses were coming. That was a stop in one of most of the tours. And we actually saw a bear. So that was a lot of fun. We saw a bear, spent some time there. And then they have somebody on site that's actually carving totems, that learned from his ancestors and everything. That was really neat to sit and talk with him. And that was it. And then you pretty much get, another hour or two before you have to get on the shuttle back. So we just walked around Creek Street and, did the touristy thing. And we went to a brewery there that was really fun, Bowden Street Brewery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had a good day. I would have loved a couple more hours, but it is what it is. That we had longer port times than some, I think, just because it's the one-way cruise. So that was nice.
I got to get clarification on this because I don't know if Norwegian, because Juneau and Ketchikan, they have those piers that are kind of a little far away. I don't know if that's maybe to protect themselves from all these ports want to limit cruise ships. Well, if you're that far away, you're not really, crowding up the downtown area. I have to get some clarification on that because I am interested to know why they invested all that money for a port that's so far away from everything, especially in Ketchikan.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, because they totally made that, and that they have a huge, big old, I guess it's an old cannery, but it's this huge hangar building. It's just full. It's one big giant gift shop. And they have tons of stuff in there. And I imagine it's all run by Norwegian. I don't know. But, they really have invested a lot of money in that. There was 2 ships there. I think all of their Norwegian was Oceana. Isn't that part of Norwegian's group? They were parked there with us. I don't know. I guess they're just run out of space in the other part, because all the other berths were, well, not all of them, but most of them right downtown. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe that's their loophole to stay in the port.
Following Ketchikan, what was next?
Juneau. We did a bike and brewery tour, they call it. It's through the ship. So I have never in all my cruises ever purchased a excursion through the ship. But with the free at sea, you get $50 off one person off the excursion. And I'm just a bump up from the lower level. I'm a silver, but that gives you 10% off. So with both those things, it's through Cycle Alaska is the company. And I found that I could book it cheaper through the cruise ship. So that was nice. They came and they got us. We got on some bicycles. And I can ride a bike, I'm in my 50s, but I can ride a bike. But I'm telling you, we were riding with like Lance Armstrong and their friends because I don't know why this was a race. I was getting a little frustrated with them. I just kind of wanted to do a little bit more looking around, but these were some hardcore bikers. But anyway, I made it through and they take you to so if you're looking at Mendenhall Glacier, we're kind of across from the visitor center. That was our first view. That was our first stop on the bikes. And then you go all the way around and end up at the visitor center on the bikes. And then you get a little time at the visitor center to look around and take some pictures. Then they bring you back into town, into Juneau, and get to try some Alaskan brewery company beer, have some samples of that. So that was fun. It was fun. And then we went to Deckhand Dave's, which has, it's kind of a taco truck, but they've made it into this huge area with all these tables and music. That was that was very good food. And then we did the tram. We went up the mountain on the tram, and that's not my favorite. I just kind of didn't really look out. I just looked towards the mountain the whole time, but we made it up there, and I'm glad I did. It was beautiful, beautiful views up there. And again, that's another great thing to get on Norwegian because it's $50 a person. So it's pretty much buy one, get one free through the cruise ship to buy those tickets.
Did y'all swing into the Red Dog Saloon at all?
We poked our head in there, but we didn't go. We didn't go in there and have a duck fart or anything.
And your next port of call after Juneau?
Skagway. Again, because of the rock slide in Skagway, I've heard some people take a bus, but we were actually tendering. They put us in the tender boats and, but that was kind of a crazy mess too. That seemed to take forever. But our tour, we got in there, I think it was like 8 to 8 or something like that. We were in that. And again, another tour I booked through the cruise ship because of the price. It was just called a Summit Scenic Drive. I wasn't sure about it because it was only an hour and a half and it was relatively inexpensive, but it was really fun. Like we went up along that road all the way to Canada, right along the railroad, track there that goes up. And the tour guide was great. He's been doing this since the 90s. He just had all kinds of fun stories. He really made it. Let's see, what else did we do that? We went to Skagway Brewing Company. No, not a huge fan of that, but ended up going to Klondike Brewing, and that was much better. But I don't know if I should say this here or whatever, but there's a strange Alaskan law, and you probably know this, or many of the people listening, but if you go to a brewery that does not have the restaurant or a bar, a liquor license, you're only allowed to have 36 ounces of beer at a day. So you can, it's some kind of law in Alaska. I was trying to look that up yesterday. It was pretty interesting. They said they back right after Prohibition, they started doing liquor license. Well, they did it on a population basis. So you had this many people, you could have this many liquor licenses. So there's just a finite amount. And then all the breweries started. Well, they had to do something, to get them. Well, they didn't want to have the license, are hard to come by, and they're very expensive. So I understand. And so they've made this, where they would only be able to open until 8 or 9 at night. And they have this 36 ounce limit that you can drink on premise. You can't have TVs. You can't play any music. You can't sit at a bar. There's just tables and stuff. But then they have lots to go. So, they kind of want you to try it and then take some to go. So it's kind of a neat little thing there, but it was different than any other state I'd ever been into.
Probably those gold miners would come down from the hills, get all sauced up and try to navigate the White Pass or something, and after a couple too many tall boys. So. Yeah.
And then just walking back. So just to say, I know you go and you're reading about what to pack and all the layers. And of course I really overpacked, but then I just started thinking, like, it just makes common sense. If you're cold, put on a coat, put on a fleece, if you're hot, take one off. People make it such a big deal about the packing for an Alaska cruise. So I way overdid it. And the first 2 days, and of course, right, it's supposed to be raining. You're in the rainforest. Almost every day. We had a beautiful day in Ketchikan. The next day, beautiful in Juneau. So I got tired of carrying my raincoat. Well, it started raining in Skagway on us. And I'm glad my coat stayed dry in my room. But walking back to the ship, we got into some rain about 30 minutes or so. So I should have carried my rain jacket. I should have known better. But we stopped. I just want to say one more thing. It's another restaurant. It's called the Salty Siren. Uh-huh. And they had on their appetizers, it was brie and halibut with like a white wine cream sauce, and it was absolutely delicious because I wanted to try local seafood, but it's mostly just fish and chips. It's fried halibut, and I thought this would be different, and it was delicious. So I just wanted to add that.
That's awesome. Your next stop or your next adventure was what, Glacier Bay?
Yeah, we were there from 8 to 12 in there, and that was absolutely beautiful. Just to let you know on that ship, so good viewing is, of course, the deck 13 forward, the Spinnaker's Lounge. But if you want to be outside, they open the crew deck 8, where they have the crew pool, that small little pool. They open that up, but it is so crowded. I think everybody on the ship wanted to be right there when you could literally just go down to deck 7 that has a promenade deck all the way around, and there's nobody. So again, that was our best viewing spot. And what was neat is it, because he, how he parks it there and he makes turns so all the sides can see. So we'd sit on one side. We just kept running back and forth through the inside to the other side to see where he was. So we were pretty much having a view the whole time. It was really great.
You mentioned how crowded it was during like the front of the ship when they opened it up, where that little crew pool area is. At any point during the sailing, were you like, man, we should have booked a balcony, or were you happy with the interior the entire time?
Yeah. No, I mean, I would be lying if I say I didn't wish I had a balcony. I bid on one, but closer to the cruise, I kept looking, and pretty soon they just took it off the website. I mean, I think it was completely sold out. I tried to make, false bookings, and it just said sold out. So, that day as we're getting on, I get the email, sorry, your bid has not been accepted. So yeah, but really, I mean, like I said, just for the two of us, just the price difference, they wanted almost triple the price for a balcony. It just wasn't worth it. So yeah, I mean, it would be nice, but we were fine with what we had. And there was plenty of outside space with nobody crowding that we could find. So
this cruise was going up to Seward, Alaska. So how was it when you were at sea navigating like the Gulf of Alaska? It can get it's I've been in it a couple of times and it's gotten pretty rough.
Yeah, the next day it was Hubbard Glacier. We weren't there that long, only a few hours. So it was pretty much like another sea day as well. And it was I felt like the first day from Vancouver was the worst. But you felt it a little bit. Yeah. That last sea day, actually, or the Hubbard Glacier day. So
yeah. I was wondering, because you did 2 glaciers. I was wondering, and I remember you went northbound, and then you didn't have to have that extra sea day coming back, like that's tacked on to the a round trip cruise. So that's really cool. And then the last sea day was a little rocky. You make your way into Anchorage or at Seward next.
Yeah, so we knew. So you can get the flights, of course, through Norwegian. Before and after, but they only allow a stay over up to 2 days before or 2 days after. And we knew we wanted to stay in Alaska a little bit later, so we didn't do the Norwegian flights on the way home. So, and also when you're making the booking, they just tack on $100 transportation fee. And I was like, well, what is this? And he's like, well, to get you to the Anchorage airport. I said, okay, well, we don't need that because we're going to do our thing. Okay, so he took it off. And then I didn't realize till later that they did actually put like excursions on for that day, so that you could either take the train up to Anchorage that morning, or you could do a bus that would stop at the Wildlife Conservation Center or something like that. So you could, I just thought they would just take you to the bus and go straight there. But so that's another weird thing. When you get on, normally on disembarkation, you have about 12 different tags to pick from, different times and things. And this sheet, because most of it was tours, a lot of people do land tours through Norwegian or take the Norwegian transportation to Anchorage, like that there was really only 2 spots. If you were doing your own independent arrangements, you could only pick 7:30 in the morning or 8:30 in the morning. So we planned a Kenai Fjords tour that day, and it wasn't until 11. So we just got off, as late as we could, about 8:30 or 9. And then we booked our own train that evening into Anchorage that left at 6 p.m. after the Kenai Fjords tour, so which is good. And if I can just plug the Alaska Tour Saver book, I don't know if anyone has heard of this thing, but it's wonderful. It's about $100, and you can even buy, if you're not doing the land portion, you could even just buy half of it. They do an interior section and a inside passage, or $100 for the entire thing. And just one so that includes 20% off Alaska Airlines flights, and then also a buy one get one free Alaska Railroad, all their lines, even the one that goes from Anchorage to Denali, or you could go from Anchorage to Fairbanks, which is quite expensive. So buy one get one free quite saves you some money. So I used buy one get one and that. And then so that was a fun time taking the train up to Anchorage.
I'm curious if you crunched the numbers to see how much you benefited from spending the $100 on the book.
Well, let's see. So the train's $125. That was buy one get one free. The tour was $105. That was buy one get one free. And the trolley was $25, buy one get one free. And for some reason, when I went on to show her, she was, you went to the person on the side of the road that can take your credit card. She's got a little iPad, and she goes, well, it's showing you don't owe anything, so we're just going to go with that. So that was free. So yeah, I mean, at least a couple $100, I would think. Nice. And then the airline discount too, so through Alaska Airlines.
Yeah. Is it valid for a year?
Yeah, it is. It sure is. Yeah.
The Alaska Tour Saver, it's called.
Yeah. On the Cruise Critic website that I go to, a lot, it says there's no plugs for the Tour Saver coupon, but, you can't, I guess give your opinions on anything about that.
No,
but I'm sure they don't want to be affiliated with selling anything. But
looking back on this 7-night cruise aboard Norwegian Jewel, do you have any tips to offer either anyone sailing Norwegian Jewel or taking that northbound cruise from Vancouver up to Seward?
Yes. So the Norwegian Jewel is very nice. We loved it. We had a great time. I wouldn't say it'd be the greatest for older teens. I know my children would be bored as anything. We didn't see a whole lot of kids. I figured that, but there were more than I thought. And they were more of the little, a lot of multi-generational families. So the little ones probably had the kids club and the pools and things like that. But internet was absolutely terrible. It took maybe 20 minutes to get on Facebook. It wasn't even worth it. We got 150 minutes per person, 150 minutes for the week. That's not much. So we just hardly didn't even bother it. And it was, we could use our phones. It's Alaska, it's United States. We could use our phones and Wi-Fi and port. It didn't bother us that much, but my kids would have been dying. So no water slides. The arcade had maybe half a dozen games. That is a type thing. So just keep that in mind. It is less expensive than you are going to pay for the bigger ships, but the bigger ships have all the fun stuff that, probably a lot of the kids would enjoy. Don't overthink the packing. Just bring what you think you would need for a winter, fall day, winter day. And then waterproof, a raincoat. I wish I did, we did bring a raincoat. I just didn't bring it the day that it actually rained. But we had some waterproof hiking shoes, but you see people want to bring snow boots. And again, June, it was lovely. It was high, like 60s, low in the 40s in the evenings. It was really great weather. Not super cold. We went up into the interior of Alaska after, and we were hiking around in Denali National Park. It was 75, 78 degrees. It was hot. It was a warm day. So it's a lot warmer than I think you think. It's Alaska, which gets a lot of snow, but this time of year, it's quite pleasant.
I get a kick out of you were talking about like, don't overthink the packing, but you have like these articles out there that the 100 must-haves to pack for Alaska or the ultimate Alaska. I'm like, you wouldn't even know.
I know. They make it sound like you need 4 suitcases for all your stuff. Which we did have 4, 2 carry-ons and 2. And you just have to think you have to lug that around. Even getting into the Ubers was hard with just that amount of luggage. I can't even imagine any more of that.
Yeah.
So next time, if I go, and hopefully there will be a next time, I'll pack better. And I know that people do this as, a bucket list cruise, and you want to get the balcony and you want to go on the helicopter tours and do all the fancy expensive stuff. And that is wonderful and that's great. But you don't have to. You can have a lovely time and really just walk around the ports if you wanted to and spend not much money at all. Everything's included on the cruise ship. Eat and drink on the cruise ship. It's included. We did a little bit of both. So hope, that kind of thing. Because we also did more saving the money we rented a car and went north and things like that for a few days. So it's not cheap. No, it's not. Even it can be cheaper, which we tried to, kind of go that way where we as much as possible. But anyway, so just, it's not unattainable. Yeah. Don't think it's out of anyone's wheelhouse because the flights are there. I'm sure I don't know if other cruise lines do flight things, but Norwegians, they do the buy one, get one free flights. And it's a great deal. It was $500 for both of us to fly to Vancouver. There's no way we could have gotten to Vancouver. And it was almost $500 a piece, if not more. Play around till I find the best price on things as much as I can. And you hear horror stories. You really do. It sounds terrible, but just one thing, they use major carriers. It's going to be United, Delta, American. There's not Spirit. It's not that type of thing. It's not budget carriers. But you are, and they say you don't know till 30 days before what your flight times are. And as a planner like myself, that's very nerve-wracking. But they honestly, I went back and looked and they had it over 100 days before a cruise. I knew what the flight times were. So, and then I was able to go on the United website and pick our seats and everything. And then you can pay for an upgrade if you want, to get a nicer seat and things like that. So
cool. Well,
it's not.
Looking back here, the biggest highlight of this cruise for y'all was what?
Just having some nice time with my husband and I. We like to adventure. We love to go on road trips. This was just right up our wheelhouse. Small cruise ship, had good food and drinks, and just seeing the beautiful sights. Glacier Bay is just absolutely amazing. None of my pictures do them justice. I've been showing people at work and they're just like, okay, another snow-covered mountain. But right. Just to see it in person, it's just gorgeous.
Well, in closing, your final thoughts of Norwegian Jewel.
It was a great little ship. I really liked it. I'm actually looking forward to hopefully getting on another one of that size rather than the big ones. Or, hey, if my kids are, and I'm not opposed to trying other lines either. So I hear great things about it. I've just always, I think for the price you pay, Norwegian is a good deal with your free at sea perks. It's kind of hard to beat that. So that's kind of why we end up going back, and we like it. We find the service is great. People are nice. Our room steward was the best we've ever had. It was just a lot of the bartenders. This was the first cruise that, they always have the little cards at the end. They want you to tell you about, name people and tell about the good things. And I think I wrote like at least almost a dozen of them. Nice. It's the first time I've ever really written more than like 1 or 2. I just was like, okay, what's your name again? Writing everything down. It was a great crew. And I think they really enjoy being there. And I think that's important too. Sometimes you just find that they're just not happy being there. And it really shows on this that they seem to enjoy it. So
I think it's one of those places too. I was actually telling my buddy Richard this, like this was the first time I've been to Alaska where I just felt super grateful. And like you, I did the same thing with the cards throughout like basically the entire cruise, because it was just like, this is such a great experience. And it's just, I don't know, it just made me really feel blessed for being there in the moment.
Yeah. And maybe it's just something magical about Alaska, I think, in that way too.
For sure.
So, and I tell this to everybody, I have so many friends, they will not get on a cruise with me. I can hardly talk anybody into going on one, but I'm like, it's beautiful. You have your suitcase in one space, you wake up, you're at a different port, you get to go on an adventure, come back, your clothes are in the same space, you have the same bed. I mean, it's just great. But until they experience it, I guess they'll never know. It's hard to try to talk someone into it that has never been on one. But then when you go on them, they seem a little addicting. You just can't wait to get on another one.
We've been talking with Amy about her 7-night cruise northbound from Vancouver to Seward, Alaska aboard Norwegian Jewel. Amy, thank you so much for sharing this adventure with us.
Yes, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Just back from a cruise? Let's talk about it. Email Doug at cruiseradio.net.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer. If you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies. Good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your announcer,